Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Level 1 News. This is our third take. Today's January 11th. Let's get started.
We've forgotten how to do the news. It's robots and government today, and everything's back to normal. And we have a lot of stories.
And not a lot of patience. And you won't have a lot of patience come next tax season, because if you're going to take any payment over $600 from peer-to-peer, like maybe you and your friends go to really expensive dinners and everybody pays you through whatever.
It's $600 in a year. That would be like going out with your friends 8 times in a year. That would count. Or
if you just regularly have a side hustle or do something, or maybe you run a flea market and somebody says, hey, you take Venmo, your answer from now on should probably be no because of this.
Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App to report payments of $600 or more in a calendar year to the IRS. What to know? So this is the thing that we warned that was happening. This is basically the IRS is getting automatic reports of literally everybody's bank account, all of the activity, all of the traffic, all of the sources of money. Now, the IRS historically has really screwed this up. Last year, they came after Patreon and a bunch of others. And so the fun way this screws up your taxes is that these services will report that you collected more than $600. But if it goes into something else, like say PayPal was also already reporting. So the IRS will say, oh, we see that you misreported your income of an extra $600 because they're counting the $600 as income when it goes from Venmo to whatever, and then from that into your bank account, because they can see it from both sides now. They really screwed that up for a lot of people, so I expect that to happen with this as well. Not to mention the whole panopticon, knowing every little transaction. We must know it.
Pro criminal tip, cash is king.
The other fun thing is, theoretically, like if I pay Ryan $600 for something, for services, I could take that $600 off my taxes if I give him the appropriate paperwork, because then it's not really income. I've had to pay Ryan for something, and Ryan will have to report that on his taxes. This lets the IRS double dip, so they're counting on people not actually reporting that cumulative $600 thing. So you'll still pay income tax on that $600, and then whoever you gave the money to will pay income tax on it a second time, which is great.
Over in the FTC world, they've decided that your security is their business. I don't know, maybe they're not wrong. This is a really stupid thing to do, but how much is too much overreach? I guess not this.
The FTC warns
It doesn't work. I hate
it?
This computer.
The FTC warns of legal action against organizations that fail to patch Log4j flaw. So, remember Equifax? They leaked all the stuff. This won't matter once Equifax, there's an Equifax-like event for Log4j. We'll look back and laugh about how the FTC said there would be consequences, and there was no consequences.
Well, if they can find somebody, they will, for sure. And we all know that President Trump, one of the things that he did that was all of his own was the Space Force and the Cyber Command. I think Biden redid the Cyber Command in his own image, didn't he? Wasn't that one of his first things?
Yeah.
And what have they been up to? Didn't really hear much from them, as you probably shouldn't.
This is really disturbing, though, because this article was like, we had a major operation, and we have no idea what it was.
And it was way back in first of the year. Was it like March or something like that?
It was from March until August of 2021.
The best thing about this, and it went on for that long, but they say that the Secretary of Defense personally watched. What did he think he was looking at? I mean, if the Secretary of Defense, there is no way he knows what he's looking at there, right?
Great job, Randy, popping that shell. Good job. And it's just like, thank you, Mr. Secretary of Defense.
Boys, is this the Java scrap? I've heard all about it. Good job. All right.
You have to switch windows.
Because it doesn't fucking work.
It's the War Zone. Yeah, Cyber Command Task Force. So this is the War Zone article. Yeah, check that out.
Woo. We don't know what they did, just that they attacked somebody.
The article speculates it might have been SolarWinds related, but judging by the debacle that was SolarWinds, not real impressed so far.
You've definitely heard of this one at this point. This was big news. Unfortunately, we don't know when she is going to be sentenced, but we do know that something's going to happen to Miss Crazy Eyes.
Elizabeth Holmes' verdict. Former Theranos CEO is found guilty on 4 counts. 4 out of 11. She's not doing too bad. Still could be facing in excess of 20 years in prison.
Weren't most of the ones she was called out on were ones that were like basically things that crimes she committed against rich people,
Yeah.
not the actual people she like defrauded with the fake tests.
Yeah, it's like, if you are really in need of a blood test for critical medical care, you had no cause to be mad at.
She didn't get sentenced for any of that.
But if you lied to a rich person, that's very illegal.
And the government.
Oh, yeah.
And
the
embarrassed the
government.
New York Times. Can't do that.
All those people, very rich.
The other guy's trial is going to be interesting to see how that goes. Balwani, his trial's not until later in the year.
I was reading about, some people doing briefs about the defense, and they said, this is weird because she used the abuse defense. But in the history of these kinds of cases, people really don't care if you were abused. I was like, well, that's not a valid defense. You still did it, right? You're saying you did it, and it seems to have played out pretty much that way. And if you're thinking, hey, you know what, I'm going to get away from the IRS and that crazy $600 rule, I'm just going to roll with pure crypto. Well, are you using a centralized exchange? Because Coinbase is going to rat you out just as fast as Venmo will.
Yes.
So then you're going to say, well, all right, bro, I'm going to take it offline. Offline wallets, I'm going to run under the radar. I'm going to have my Bitcoin on me. Well, you might not want to do that either.
UK police forces have seized more than £300 million in Bitcoin because of other police activity involving catching criminals with laptops that have things or taking over their Coinbase account.
And that's the kind of thing, just like here in the good old US of A, when they take your cash, you're never getting it back.
No.
Doesn't matter if you're charged or not.
Or your Wu-Tang CDs, as it turns out, foreshadowing.
Oh.
We gave that up because to settle a restitution, right? And this, Krista and I have both purchased homes recently, and around in this area, this is a big deal. Sometimes I would do 2-3 days worth of research with hope blossoming in my heart that this amazing property would have some kind of internet access. Never did. No. And they were real cagey about that.
Yeah.
The realtors do not want to tell you that answer because it's going to turn you away from the house. And some people are saying, you got to tell us.
Washington State to require internet service disclosure when selling a house in the new year. Yeah, I can recall a couple of times where you asked the realtor and the realtor said, yes, fiber optic is available at this house. And they were just making shit up.
Well, and the FCC has a map you can go and look at and enter an address. And that's usually like fairly accurate, but it doesn't tell you anything about like cost or, yes, we think it's in the area, but maybe it doesn't run to that particular house. And
yeah, there's a lot of that around here.
Yeah.
Well, there's also a lot of ISPs where you go and put the address in and they're like, yeah, sure. Yeah, we do service
I never
there.
trusted the ISPs.
Yeah, and then
I always went to the
them.
FCC site.
Yeah, you call them and they're like, oh, no, we can't do that.
The reason that service exists is because there's an auditor at the FCC that's checking to see if service is available at an address, and they key a random address in, and it's like, oh, yeah, it says it's supported, and they tick off the box without actually trying to sign up service.
Looking, yeah.
If you can't get a good ISP service in your area, you might be cursed with 5G. But the areas that don't have any kind of copper or fiber probably don't have great 5G either. And it might get a little bit worse because the standoff, which isn't really a standoff, this is basically the government saying, please, all that money that we give you constantly? You know how we never prosecute you for anything? Could you please just do this one little thing for us? Guess what the answer was?
AT&T and Verizon have rejected Buttigieg's plea to delay 5G launch amid warnings of aviation chaos. So they did say, Verizon and AT&T did say that if the aviation authority comes to us with specific cases of problems caused, then we'll dial it back. But until then, we're not doing anything.
And what can we do against the juggernaut that is the ISPs? You got to hope that a little plucky upstart will show up in your area and not also be terrible, which is the case in my house. And more, we see this, which seems good. I worry that there's something hiding here. But on the surface, you got to hope that more and more of this happens.
Public corporation created to bring high-speed broadband to all of Erie County. So basically the people in Erie County got fed up with all the nonsense and got together and said, we can do this. We are going to do this. And the really special thing about their situation is that there are 500 pair of fiber that are already running pretty much everywhere that aren't actually hooked up. So they're basically seizing the means of communication and, taking over. So that's good.
There's well, not quite the same, but like there's a similar thing in a county not far from us where like just some guy was like, there's no internet here. I'm going to change that. And now he has his own like little ISP that just serves that county. And it's apparently great.
That's what happened in our hometown. These guys figured it out a long time ago during cable.
Yeah.
And they said, no one wants to put poles in these mountains. No one wants to run the lines. We're going to invest in that. And now they own the place.
Yeah.
Like, they own the place to the extent that they were able to buy out other ISPs in the state, which is genuinely very impressive.
The service is amazingly bad because
what are you going to do?
You got no choice.
Yeah.
And soon we will not have this choice because, as you can see, piece by piece, it's being chipped away. Luckily, it's happening overseas first. Maybe we can hold on to it here. I don't know. But if you're in France, the commercials may sound a little different.
New French law requires car commercials to tell people to walk or bike instead. There's 3 phrases that the state demands that your commercials say, kind of like a Surgeon General's warning. But it's like, oh, you want to buy a car, so you want to ruin the planet for future generations. We understand.
For short journeys, walk or cycle. Think about carpooling and take public transport daily.
I imagine that might work in France where everything's really close together. But
yeah, the irony here is that the auto industry got ahead with public transit and destroyed public transit before it could take hold.
Yeah, at least here in the U.S.
Yeah.
There's also a pandemic?
No, I meant like in the 50s.
Yeah, like years ago.
Or like trains.
No, but they're telling people to get on public transport now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's probably not the best idea.
Just walk everywhere. Which, honestly, I love walking places, but I just live too far out.
Maybe DuPont has got like a personal self-containment thing. It's basically a giant garbage bag that you wear that's got a little tiny air filter on one side.
I could see that. Totally. They would love that. I mean, isn't that just the next step up from masks?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just wrap our citizens completely. Let's harvest the body heat somehow.
Use the body heat to run the fan that's doing the air exchanger.
Is France cool with work from home? Because that's also a big thing that saves on people having to drive places.
France is cool with taking a few days off.
Yeah. Here in the U.S., that's like, oh no, you can't take time off. Can't not be productive for 5 seconds.
One of the despair posters in the office is a picture of the Eiffel Tower, and it's like, something hard work rewards, but in some places hard work is illegal, and it's like this picture of the Eiffel Tower. It's like, I see what you did there.
Well, I like to keep a tally of things that are never going to happen. And
we covered this. This is when I got the population of Canada wrong, but this is the whole population.
Oh, did we already do this?
We've done this story, yeah.
But this is a follow-up. This has more information than our original story had in it, so it was nice.
It's not really worth covering.
Canada's public health agency admits it tracked 33 million mobile devices during the lockdown.
Oh, the story here is they admitted it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there was suspicion, but this is basically the entire population of Canada. Every citizen, everybody with a phone. Now, some people have more than one phone, but that's basically everybody.
And they admitted, in principle, oh God, this is so annoying because I can't switch back and forth easily. In principle, of course, cell data can be used for tracking. Really?
No, say it ain't so.
You don't say.
It was anonymized, don't worry, but only you have your unique location fingerprint, so.
You ever just think about getting a dumb phone? Sometimes I think about getting a dumb phone.
It doesn't matter. The best thing you can do is just leave your phone behind randomly.
I do that a lot by accident, but.
Yeah.
And once again in France, wow, those stories should have gone together, and they almost did, but I've accidentally pushed one in between them. They are taking the whole privacy thing pretty seriously, and of course, it comes down to the cookies. My God, the cookie situation. The fix for that only made things more annoying.
You're talking about the pop-up that's like, let's figure out what your cookie policy is.
Manage your cookies. And now I'm getting letters. It's like, can you change this data collection? Yes, call this 1-800 number. It will take you 45 minutes to get through that automated system to turn that off. So it's really the same situation with more hoops and more government fines.
Google and Facebook fight big privacy fines in France. Basically, France looked at this and said, well, you're still tracking individuals. You're using a lot of fancy college words here. But at the end of the day, you're still tracking an individual's movement and an individual's preferences. Stop doing that. And Google and Facebook both are taking this, well, technically this is a loophole and but I just don't think that's going to work out for them in the end, in terms of avoiding the fine.
And it may be outrageous. It may anger you to find out that the Canadian government was just spying on everybody because they felt like they could. Of course, like we learned 20 years ago, didn't we?
Yeah.
Our government's doing that. Germany's doing it. Australia's doing it. But China, China, they do it better than anybody. Unfortunately,
world-class champs.
Yeah, the best tracking system, China #1. But unfortunately, even the #1 system can have a breakdown. And when that happens and you depend on it for everything, it's bad.
So small.
China's, I can't. It's China's locked down Xi'an city in chaos after the app has crashed that tracks which citizen does what. So they're having a bit of an outbreak in that city. And by a bit of an outbreak, I mean that they have completely locked it down.
It's not the vid, though.
Yeah.
Well, they're saying it is.
Yeah.
But
there's been talk about it being hantavirus.
They have a health app that's tracking all sorts of things. So it might be the thing, it might be the other thing. But the app figures out, who is allowed to move and who isn't, but it's completely down and has been down for several days. And so the whole city has just basically shut down, which is pure chaos from what we understand.
There was one woman who was at the hospital waiting, couldn't get in because they're like, no, we're zero policy. You cannot enter here if you have that. And she was like, I don't have it. I just can't get the app. Lost the child. Yeah. That's a rough one. I don't know if the Chinese legal system gives you any recourse there, but if they do.
No, we don't even have recourse here. There are a lot of people that were turned away, similar situation where the hospitals were over capacity for other reasons.
But they weren't over capacity.
Oh, in China, you mean?
They just wouldn't let her in.
Yeah. It's a mess.
Now, these New York Times stories are long, and you really got to dig a lot for the nuggets. But this one does give you a lot of details. And this is about how China deals not with their citizens, but with their ex-citizens and their visitors. Because if you go to China, or if you communicate with people in China, you will very likely experience this.
A digital manhunt, how Chinese police track critics on Twitter and Facebook. So basically they figure out who talks about things, and you go on a list.
And you go and talk to them. So this one woman, she detailed how she visited her family. She's in the U.S. She visited her family and made some tweets about how crazy things were that her family were telling her. And they came and picked her up and took her down to the state office, had a little conversation with her.
Ooh.
She still had the balls to talk to the New York Times. I guess she doesn't plan on going back. Her poor family, though.
Yeah, I would say her family's still there, though.
And we've heard more about this. We got a hint of this a couple of months ago, but this is just a lot more disgusting details of how Tim Cook does whatever the Communist Party wants because he knows that he needs to sell those people a lot of Apple products.
In-depth report details Apple's shift to Chinese suppliers to cut costs and curry favor with Beijing. So remember stories from the past 2 years, really. It's like Apple's expanding operations in the Philippines. Apple's expanding operations in India. Apple's expanding here, there. Well, this is really, if you're interested in that kind of thing and you play stocks, you should really read this because there is a lot of good information in this about things that may be coming and leaked details from stuff a couple of years ago. Or if you reread those stories, now things make a little bit more sense.
What a great image. They don't give an attribution. I assume this is 9 to 5 Mac's own creation.
Yeah, probably. It's pretty good. Pretty solid. The shadow is really what makes it.
And China, if you remember, all the way back in the beginning of last year, they said, we have a problem with gaming. It's an addiction, and we're going to stamp it out. And one of the ways they did that was to stop offering new gaming licenses. Here we are 1 year later. Not a single gaming license has been granted in China. So, as you can imagine,
over 140,000 gaming firms close as China continues its new license freeze.
Is that what they were hoping for, you think?
I think so, yeah.
It's interesting to look at how ByteDance handled some of this with some of their games. So they have games that are not available in the Chinese market. That's one way that they're dealing with it. And the party seems completely okay with that. It's like, oh, you're making games that are aimed at non-Chinese markets. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Go for it.
Addict the Westerns, but leave our people alone. It's the opiate wars. Opium wars. And China, in addition to cracking down on their citizens and controlling every piece of their life, they are deep, deep into the space race. They're looking to start their own space station, and they've got a bunch of satellites up there, and they're doing some pretty impressive things.
China's Red Planet orbiter snaps amazing selfies above Red Planet. So that's a picture, but how did they do that? It had a camera module on it, and so it released the camera module, and the camera module took pictures over Wi-Fi. So that was a Wi-Fi connection from the camera to the satellite.
Do you remember when some of the phone companies were trying to do like little R&D projects where there was a tiny drone in your phone that could go out and take selfies?
Oh, yeah.
It's basically that technology.
Yeah.
But for a satellite.
Yeah. It worked well.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, you think it was tethered?
No, I think it was just I think it was a one shot. Like it's released.
Oh, it's never coming back?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Oh, that poor little guy. What if, isn't he going to be space debris now, though?
Yeah, it's going to be space
That's
debris.
Not right. That's not good.
Space debris around Mars.
Just trash. What's your purpose? Take a selfie.
Of course, you're never going to get Netflix in China. That's never going to happen. But one step down the ladder of control is maybe Russia. And Russia says, yeah, we're going to let you have Netflix, but we're going to require some things from them.
Russia to require Netflix to stream state television broadcasts. Okay.
Is that...
You got to do... there's more rules than that, though.
Oh, we've lost it. Yeah, there's going to be a driver crash. It's fine.
It's not
There
fine.
it goes.
Hey.
So far from fine. There was another thing where this also has censorship built into it. So there's certain things that you cannot have on Netflix. And
Google, it's right there at the bottom. It's Google and Apple both. Google and Apple were both forced to remove content related to jailed Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny and his associates ahead of Russia's whatchamacallit.
so that's part of the Netflix deal too.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anything like that, you're done. I don't know. You think Netflix has anything that controversial? Is Cutie still on there? Kazakhstan, it's tough to get information out of Kazakhstan right now.
Yes.
Like, I'm curious exactly what's going on, because now you got people saying that, well, you got Putin saying that that's the U.S. government in there stirring things up. And that's why he should be able to take his troops in there. And maybe his troops are already in there. It's crazy, but the reason you can't get anything out is because there's nothing to come out.
Kazakhstan internet shutdown deals blow to global Bitcoin mining operations. So energy there was cheap, but this winter is harsh. And so there's not an energy surplus. And so the miners and the citizens are at odds with one another. The citizens had a subsidy for energy, but the government said, "Oh no, we can't subsidize that right now during these unprecedented times of demand." And the citizenry did not have that.
I think
They did not take well to that.
I think this table is really sticky. I think you're confusing the fuel subsidy with an electric subsidy.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Bitcoin is a knock-on effect.
Yes.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
fuel subsidy is what caused the unrest. Or CIA spooks, if you trust Putin. I don't know.
It's hard to say.
I'm sure somebody was on the ground.
But unrest there would only benefit Russia. So why would the CIA do that? It's not like Del Monte and the stuff going on with that company.
Unrest benefits whoever brings in a peacekeeping force.
So Russia.
I think you were actually thinking of Kosovo.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah, because what you just described
Also
basically
happening.
Kosovo,
Yeah.
without the unrest.
Kosovo has banned cryptocurrency mining to save electricity because they're using crappy coal in their electrical generation facilities, and it can't really keep up. The citizens can burn the crappy coal themselves, but it has toxic byproducts, so you really don't want that sort of byproduct hanging around in your chimney in your house because it's not great.
Think about these energy prices, right? He's got 40 GPUs. We don't know what the GPUs are, but they sound like, based on the rate he was getting, they were pretty good. He's paying 170 euros a month in electricity for 40 GPUs, and he's pulling down nearly $3,000 in euros in crypto, or was, not anymore.
I mean, if that person only has 40 GPUs though, that's basically, a hobby miner. There's probably a lot of people like that, but it's not one of those extreme operation from China that had thousands of GPUs has moved to a small rural country.
Yeah, but based on the laws of finance. You know who else is doing that?
The large providers.
Anybody who knows it. Anybody who has the ability to buy 40 GPUs and knows that guy and knows what he's getting away with.
Yeah.
Because the returns are just astonishing. It's crazy. Now, we all know that Meta, Facebook, all of their properties have horrible, horrible things posted to them every day, to the point where people are literally losing their minds just trying to delete it fast enough. Like, they are literally getting suicidal, looking at the horror to try it so that we don't have to look at it. And mixed amongst all that horror, there's some extremism. Is that the fault of Meta? Or is it the fault of the extremists? We might find out in the U.S. court system.
Meta has been sued for alleged role in extremist-linked murder of federal guard. So this is happening, and it all happened in another country. Small country. I can't remember the country.
I also cannot remember the other country, but I'm sure that Oakland, California. What? That's not another country.
No, Underwood was shot outside a federal building in Oakland, California in May of 2020. The two men charged in the case were linked to a so-called Boogaloo anti-government movement.
Well, that's all homegrown. That's U.S.
A Boogaloo?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I don't know if Boogaloo. I don't know what Boogaloo is.
We've been flagged because that's probably a banned word.
Electric GPUs 2. GPU 2 electric Boogaloo. There we go.
Just going to let that one marinate a little bit.
Sorry.
So anyway, somebody's suing Meta, and it's because they didn't do enough to stop extremism, but what can they do? What can you do against the Boogaloo? There's the rhyme. We can't use that for a title, though, because of what Kristen said.
It's already been demonetized at this point, because we've said it like 4 times.
No.
And moving on, we have a big space section today, and I got to say, I was reading a lot about this thing, and it's such a marvel of engineering, but the number of moving parts, the confidence that they had is overwhelming, and it's just amazing. Are we at 100% yet?
Yes, it is 100% deployed.
This is a human accomplishment that is just beyond, I don't think most people understand how many things could have gone wrong here.
A lot, yeah. The James Webb Telescope the Sun Shield is fully deployed. So the whole thing is basically fully deployed. It was something like 192 pins had to be ejected and things
pulleys,
actuated. Yeah.
There's pulleys in there.
All it took was one failing, probably, to ruin that.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing getting hitched up. One thing getting a kink in it.
Everything went according to plan, or everything went reasonably according to plan because it's fully deployed with no weird problems.
Now, this headline seems nice at the face of it. It seems like, oh, yeah, that's good because we should invest more in this. But we're not really investing here.
No, this is just keeping the lights on.
Right. What we're doing here is running a dangerously old car. Because we're not willing to replace it.
With no windshield wipers and a busted headlight.
We're taking our best and brightest and we're putting them in like an 84 Civic. And be like, here you go, guys, go to space.
We're looking at last year's maintenance, and last year's maintenance on the 84 Civic was like $62,000. And it's like, guys, we could have had a really nice car for the maintenance we put into this thing last year.
It says here one of the items was that the Russians put a hole in it. Shouldn't we get a new one? And they're saying, we're just going to run this one for another 9 years.
The Biden-Harris administration extends the space station operations through 2030. So this is a story about how, there's a budget, but it's just the operational budget. It literally is just to keep the lights on.
It feels like NASA's really just, other than this, but like they've really been hitting home runs lately, and they just release all their press releases right at this like end of the year, beginning of the year time.
Well, they're learning from Musk, right? They're learning to try to control the narrative better. Like, it's just a bunch of nerds who actually know how to do stuff, and they're like, we're getting killed by this guy. He's got no skills.
But see, Musk, like, he would release everything slowly, where it's like every 2 to 3 weeks he'll release like some sort of new tweet or press release, whereas NASA's just like, just dump it all now. We don't care.
Yeah, it's the Steve Jobs personality.
Yeah.
He's the marketer, not the innovator.
We need, it's like our budget depends on Randy, the mathlete, in order to, he's got to complete this, or we don't get our budget for the space station operation through 2020. And the whole thing's staged. It's like, good job, Randy, you did it.
Also, don't you think it's a little bittersweet? So let's say it's 2025, right? And you're just getting out of your PhD, and you're going to work for NASA, and they're like, good news. You're going up in 28. And you're like, oh, 28. that's the last possible time for this thing. It's going to be as damaged as it will ever be.
You get in there and everything's just rickety. You like go to turn a knob and it just floats off.
One of the tires on this Civic is more patch than tire.
So I guess you still go, because how can you pass up the opportunity? But it's got to be a little bit unnerving.
They tuck some duct tape down into your suit before you sit down.
Are we using the airbag as a fuel storage device?
Sloshing.
Yeah, keep that strapped to your leg. Meanwhile, China has their own space station that they're working on, and they're planning to use that to launch a bunch of different space missions. They're just going crazy.
China has the moon's south pole in its sights, with 3 missions launching this decade. And that's not all.
I saw an update just today. They claim that they have 100% found the water.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I didn't see that.
Now, this one, is the next story the one about the space
No,
rock?
that's in nonsense.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Although they do have a picture.
They do have a picture of it here, yeah.
Because that's the hottest story, right? But you
Everyone
gotta
wants to know.
Yeah, you got to wait till Friday.
Or you could just Google it right now because it's already happened.
Or join us on Patreon. the least economical way to find out about the space rock.
Man, I have been, I watched a documentary about Sany, the Chinese earth mover company. SANY. I think that's Sany, something like that. Every new model that they put out going forward has a black box with 20,000 points of telemetry that always, you can't turn it off, always goes back to China. They can, with the GPS, they could replay. They could send an earth mover out there and replay your earth moving with all that telemetry, like replaying your mouse clicks.
That's awesome.
John?
Yeah, because like if you're going to build a mini mall somewhere, you could just hit go on mini mall number 2 and the machine will just repeat it.
Well, the ground would be different.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they could compensate for that.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And
this is how CNC machining was born. It was like you just follow the machine operator making a C-clamp and then you hit replay and it makes another C-clamp.
CNF. So, I don't know that John Deere does that, but I suspect they do, right?
Yeah, it seems like...
I mean, how would you, if that's the industry leader, would they not be doing exactly the same kinds of things? Also, the other thing about that black box is fly-by-wire, full remote control. We're going to be in shipping containers when we're 65 running these things because we'll be good at it. Because, you know, I also have been playing some farming simulator.
Oh, were you good at it? Did you like it?
No, I'm terrible at it. But I'll be good by the time I'm 65, and then I can run. I'll probably be a trainer, right? White males probably won't be able to run the equipment. We'll be the trainers because you can't have them like out visible to the world. But John Deere is taking baby steps. I imagine they could do everything, but they're not going to roll it out all at once, I don't think.
No.
Because the kind of people they sell their products to, I think they're going to be sensitive to this kind of thing.
Yeah. John Deere breaks new ground with a self-driving tractor you can control from a phone. So here's an upfit kit for this thing, and the whole model is like $500,000, or the retrofit kit is probably going to be like $50K. They haven't actually decided on pricing yet. But the farmer that has been beta testing this with John Deere seems genuinely impressed with how automated it is. Right now they're just automating tilling, but a lot of farmers don't till apparently because it takes too long. But that's actually really hard on the soil not to till.
Now here's the craziest thing about it. They do not use any of the self-driving technology that's currently out there. They don't use LiDAR, and they don't use those other kinds of cameras. They use stereo cameras, several of them. And they claim when it comes to that, roads are one thing, but Earth and the fact that the Earth has a Z-index that you have to worry about more than roads changes everything, they claim, with LiDAR type stuff.
That makes sense to me.
So
Interesting.
definitely going to be some remote tractoring going on.
Well, once you train your tractor to till your land, the parameters aren't going to change from year to year. That is definitely a candidate for replay.
So that's what the Chinese said. They said that in their mind, it's not fully autonomous, but it's one guy running 10 tractors from, remote. So, because just when something happens, he steps in and he should be able to run 10 at the same time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Here's one, I don't have a strong opinion on this, but I imagine that Krista does. And Krista, I would say put yourself in the shoes of Rembrandt or Klimt. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Klimt, yeah. Gustav Klimt.
100 years from now, let's say that, people are unearthing some Krista NFTs.
As you do.
But the data is corrupted. Do you want him to do something like this?
I want him to make it more corrupt.
Because it's so you don't want any more. You want it to be.
No, I want it to get weirder. Oh, you literally pulled up the smallest one.
No, it's not that small.
Artificial intelligence is restoring lost works by Klimt, Picasso, and Rembrandt, but not everyone is happy about it.
So it talks about one of the Picassos was lost in a fire.
I think that was the Klimt.
Or the Klimt, I guess. Yeah. And there are pictures of it, but they're only black and white pictures. But the AI can sort of recreate it in color based on descriptions and being trained with Klimt style and blah, blah,
But nobody knows if those colors are anywhere near accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like the same thing that restoration people do. Like, what's the name of that YouTube channel? Bumgardner Restoration, where he'll like go through and he'll get a painting and then he has to like patch certain parts of it. It's kind of like that, but with a computer instead of a person.
So are you against that?
No, not really. It's a necessary thing with works that are so old. Eventually, you're gonna have to like reframe them, revarnish them, like make patches to it as the paint degrades.
Does it become a ship of Theseus or my grandfather's axe or type situation?
This is not even a ship of Theseus. There's no original ship.
Yeah, well, there's the picture of the ship.
Yeah,
that counts.
I don't know that I would fully trust. I wouldn't trust a human to even get that right, just because like you can't really know if you don't have a full color photo to work from.
Well, I think they're pulling from all of his other work, which means that if he just went out on a limb on that one, that's interesting.
I mean, there's a little bit of that even with regular restoration. It's like, well, I'm trying to match this other shade of pink on a different part of the painting, but like maybe they didn't use this exact thing and it's just faded differently for that reason.
Couldn't we just focus on new art? I mean, do we really need to?
The new hotness in new art right now is the Bored Ape Yacht Club.
Well, yeah. When you put it like that.
Yeah. New art is NFTs. So.
Okay. Different definitions of art here, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't consider that to be art. I guess it is on some level. What I do know is there is a new robot from Boston Dynamics, and it is a bit of a departure for them. Yeah. They've gone for the mobile robots up until now, and this guy stays in one place. But oh boy, is he more impressive than any of his peers.
This is a follow-up. We've seen him before, but a robot for the worst job in the warehouse, loading boxes onto the truck. So this conveyor belt and the robot actually move as one unit. So it can move itself in the container, but it's not really. I mean, it's not like Spot where it's completely mobile. This is just to unload the boxes into the truck.
Now they say that the truck unloading job is the least desirable in the warehouse, and they believe that with these things, one person could unload 10 trucks simultaneously, which probably that's kind of the same way that the Chinese were talking about with their earth moving equipment.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy about going back to the Sany thing though? In that documentary, when the Chinese were just talking frankly, there was none of this like the U.S. companies do where they're lying about it. They're just like, oh my God, we cut the workforce by a third. It's incredible. We need like 10 less people to do this job and this job, and we're saving so much money. Whereas when American companies do that, they're like, oh, we're not firing anybody. No, this won't change anything.
They have different jobs now. They've got the oil can, and they've got to go spray the machine with oil every 10 minutes.
Yeah, their job is to find another job. And this is just a ridiculous. I almost put this in nonsense because can you imagine one of the most impressive technological feats in the world, and you put this is like like spending 10 years crafting the finest crystal wine glass and filling it up with Yoo-hoo. That's what this is.
Amazon is putting Alexa on the Orion spacecraft that Lockheed Martin is building for NASA.
NASA's like, why?
We've secretly replaced the HAL 9000 with Alexa. Let's see if anybody notices.
That'd be funny if they're on there shopping on Amazon and then Alexa, like the little thing is just spinning. She's trying to calculate their shipping.
She's like, oh, that's going to be pricey.
Good news. I found a delivery driver that works for SpaceX.
And here's an interesting way to use drones. At first, I thought the drone administered this itself.
Which is impressive.
That was terrifying. But it does not do that. It just makes itself available. You have to have a trained professional on hand. Luckily, these people had an actual doctor.
Drone carrying a defibrillator saves the first heart attack patient in Sweden. So there's a man, 71 years old, who's out shoveling his driveway. Got a lot of snow in Sweden, I guess. he had a heart attack. His neighbor was a doctor who had an app on his phone that was like request defibrillator. And the drone company deployed a drone, and the defibrillator was there within minutes.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I wonder if the battery on that thing, I wonder how many shots it has in it.
Probably enough.
1 or 2 at most, right?
It's probably on the order of like 10.
Really? I was thinking it have to be a much bigger battery. Those crash carts are big.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sure the answer to that is somewhere on the internet if I cared enough.
That's our local emergency thing when we had all the snow. We had like almost 10 inches of snow here, chat. And they put up a thing online, like on their Facebook page that was like, remember, hazards aren't just driving, and it was about heart attacks when shoveling snow.
Christy, you just opened up the floodgate of 10 inches. Try northern Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah. Listen, we don't have the infrastructure for that here. And our roads are tiny little curvy mountain roads.
Yeah, it does not. And the drivers, they just shut down. Like mentally, I feel like the fear creeps in and people lose all their ability to do anything. It's amazing.
There's at least one place where the road has been gone from 2 lanes to 1 because of a washout, and it's been that way for a year.
Yeah.
It's probably going to wash out some more today because it's pouring rain now.
And our final story has to do with the new year because people make New Year's resolutions. Do you guys do New Year's resolutions?
No. I did write a journal entry of like all the things I felt like I accomplished this year and things I would like to try and accomplish this year.
What was number 1?
Buying a house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was a good one. And then it was like other things that I would like to do more of this year.
That's good. I like that your number 1 item was capitalism.
Well,
That's beautiful.
I wanted a home. You know what was amazing about having a home this winter is that when it got really cold, instead of having to bundle up and run space heaters, all the windows in this house are actually like insulated and the doors don't have an inch crack under them like our apartment did.
Well, your resolution for 2022 is probably not to buy another house.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely not.
So maybe you will be able to use this AI who will step in and create a resolution for you. But they're silly.
Oh, it's so small. Maybe 2022 should be the year we turn over decision making to the AI. I'm going to say no.
Let's think about that for a
That's
second.
a no from me, dog.
There's a $1 trillion company whose algorithm is constantly breathing down our neck as we make these silly little shows every week. Do we really think that...
Let's put them in charge of everything. Why not?
And that's the best that a $1 trillion company can come up with. And it is so awful. So awful.
So just a couple of the examples here. You might want to change your name to one of your favorite shapes. What was your favorite? What would you change your name to, Krista?
Oh, favorite shape? I don't know if I have a favorite shape.
Square.
Yeah, maybe like a star? I don't know.
I would definitely go tetrahedron. Or for every Friday for a year, I will wear a different hat. That's a lot of hats. That's a non-trivial hat investment.
This could be a business idea, the Hat of the Week Club, and it's a rental?
Yeah, but then you got to recycle it. And finally, every time I hear bells for a month, I will paint a potato. Now, does that mean you have to hear bells for the entire month, or paint potatoes for the entire month, or just during that month you follow that rule?
Painting a canvas with a potato, or are you painting the potato directly?
I guess you can interpret, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how to take it.
The AI is not giving me specific enough instructions, and it's failed.
I'm pretty sure the AI is a very proto version of Gladys.
It's GPT-3. So they've trained it on other resolutions, I guess, and it came up with this nonsense.
How did it come up with bells and potatoes? Who had something like that?
How did it come up with Willy Wonka,
Yeah, ripping off his face.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. That's also another nonsense story where it's like, oh, we could have talked about our experiences with AI Dungeon once again.
We tried playing that one during the Sober Up stream, and it was not quite as good, but I think that might have been our state, too.
A lot of these, they cherry pick the most exciting ones, the weirdest ones, and the other ones are very mundane. Like, I guess this is the best one they could find. Go into a library, climb up onto a shelf, yell down, "I'm a giant giraffe."
That one would be easy to cross off the list.
Yeah, but would you feel better afterwards?
No.
You just feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
Because you would be.
Yay, algorithm.
You'd get kicked out for yelling in the library.
Depends on the library, probably.
Yeah.
There's the book Algorithms to Live By if you really want to try to live by algorithms, but yeah.
Also, subtitle should be How to Be a Robot. It literally is like, oh, you could just meet with these people and judge them individually. Nah, throw away 15% of them right off the top, because that's what a robot does.
But it's funny you say that, because that's literally what happens when you go to work for Amazon or Google or Microsoft.
And
Yeah,
you're
they just
advocating for
filter
that?
through
No, it's just saying, it's like.
Well, tomorrow we got a crazy day because there was so much business news that tomorrow will be nothing but business. And this week we'll have zero. Well, actually, I think there's one story I put in somewhere else. 0 social media stories.
Wow.
Nice.
How did we get 0 social media stories?
I feel like that's a small Christmas miracle. A great way to start 2022.
Yeah, maybe.
They're all trying to fly under the radar because they did very bad things last year. They're dealing with the coal shipment from Santa.
Maybe.
That's what's blocking the ports. It's all Mark Zuckerberg's coal.